Tay stood on the bridge of the Starship Dawn and watched the alien inspectors tear through his weapons bay. They threw human equipment on the floor. They laughed at the old missiles. They called the crew primitive animals when they thought no one could hear. But Tay heard everything. His hands shook behind his back. Not from fear. From anger. 50 years ago, Earth had joined the Galactic Accord. They promised peace. They promised protection. They promised humanity a place among the stars. They lied. The lead inspector, tall creature with gray skin and 4 arms, walked up to Tay. His name was Vorn. He was the High Chancellor of the entire Accord. He did not need to do inspections himself. He came to remind humans of their place. Admiral Vorn said, his voice like ice. Your weapons are old. Your ships are slow. Your people breed like insects, but fight like children. He leaned close. Be grateful we allow you to exist. Tay said nothing. He had learned long ago that words meant nothing to creatures like Vorn. Only power mattered. And right now, humanity had none. Vorn left with his inspectors. The bridge was silent. Every officer stared at the floor. They felt the same shame Tay felt. The same helpless rage. Tay whispered to himself, one day. 3 days later, everything changed. Dr. Hannah worked in a small lab on Earth's moon. She studied alien languages and old documents. Most people thought her work was boring. They were wrong. For 15 years, Hannah had been breaking into encrypted alien archives. She found trade records, military reports, and diplomatic messages. Most of it was useless. But last night, she found something that made her blood run cold. She called an emergency meeting. Only 4 people came. Admiral Tay, Captain Wu, Operative Nari, and Elder Sung, the former president of Earth. They sat in a dark room underground. No windows. No signals in or out. Complete secrecy. What did you find? Sung asked. He was old now, his hair white, but his eyes were still sharp. Hannah put a document on the screen. It was written in an alien language, but she had translated it. This is from 300 years ago, she said. Before humans ever left Earth, before we knew aliens existed. Everyone leaned forward. The Galactic Accord held a secret vote. 17 species participated. The question was simple. Hannah paused. Her voice shook. What should we do about the human problem? The human problem? Wu repeated. He was young, hot-headed, and his fists were already tight. They watched us, Hannah continued. For centuries, they watched Earth. They saw our wars, our weapons, our ability to adapt and survive. And they were afraid. She showed them the voting results. 12 species wanted to destroy Earth before we could reach space. 5 species said no. Not because they cared about us. Because they thought we might be useful as slaves. The room was completely silent. The compromise was the treaties, Hannah said. Every rule we follow, every restriction on our ships and weapons, every limit on our colonies, none of it was for peace. It was containment. They built a cage around us and called it protection. Tay felt something break inside him. All those years of following rules, all that shame, all those inspections where aliens laughed at them. It was never about keeping peace. It was about keeping humans weak. There's more, Hannah said quietly. Nari, tell them. Nari stepped forward. She was small and quiet, but she had spent 20 years as a spy inside alien governments. She knew their secrets better than anyone. 3 months ago, I found communications about Phase 2, Nari said. The Accord believes humanity is still growing too fast. They plan to introduce sterilization programs on our colony worlds. They will call it population assistance. Free medicine. Health programs. Her voice hardened. It will make our children unable to have children of their own. Wu slammed his fist on the table. We have to warn everyone. We have to fight. Fight with what? Sung asked. They took our weapons. They control our trade. They have fleets that could burn Earth in an hour. Then we build new weapons, Wu said. In secret, we already have. Everyone turned to Tay. He had been silent this whole time. Now he stood. 30 years ago, I started hiding ships, Tay said. In dead systems. In asteroid fields. Places the Accord never bothered to look. Dr. Hannah has been developing weapons in secret. Nari has been mapping their weaknesses. He looked at each of them. I always knew something was wrong. I could feel it. Now we have proof. Sung stared at him. You've prepared for this? I hoped I was wrong, Tay admitted. I hoped the Accord was truly peaceful. I hoped the cage was just my imagination. He shook his head. But hope is not a strategy. What are you suggesting? Sung asked Tay walked to the screen and turned off Hannah's document. The room went dark. We do not beg, he said. We do not warn. We do not ask for mercy from creatures who planned our extinction before we were born. His voice was calm but filled with fire. We strike first. We break every treaty in a single night. And we show them that the animal they tried to cage has claws they never expected. Sung was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. If we do this, there is no going back. There was never a way back, Hannah said. We just did not know it. Wu grinned. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had waited his whole life for permission to fight. When do we start? Tay activated a hidden communication network. It connected to every human world, every secret base, every ship they had built in darkness. Now, he said. He pressed a button, and his face appeared on screens across human space. Soldiers stopped working. Families gathered around displays. Children looked up at the man who was about to change everything. They caged us because they feared what we could become, Tay said. Tonight, we show them they were right to fear. Across the galaxy, humanity began to move, and the Accord did not see them coming. Captain Wu sat in the command chair of the Starship Defiance and counted down the seconds. Around him, 200 warships waited in the darkness between stars. They had hidden here for years, built in secret, crewed by volunteers who knew they might never go home. 30 seconds, his officer said. Wu thought about his father. The old man had worked in alien factories his whole life. He died tired and broken, never knowing why humans were treated like dirt. Wu knew now, and tonight he would answer. 10 seconds. Across 12 star systems, human forces prepared to strike. They had one chance, one moment of surprise. After tonight, nothing would ever be the same. Now, the Defiance jumped into normal space above an Accord monitoring station. The alien crew had no warning, no time to send messages, no time to call for help. Wu fired. The station died in seconds. Its signals went dark. One of 17 eyes that watched humanity had been blinded forever, across the galaxy. 16 other stations fell at the exact same moment. Nari had planned every attack. She knew where the guards were. She knew when they changed shifts. She knew their weaknesses because she had spent 20 years learning them. In 1 hour, the Galactic Accord lost its entire surveillance network. They could no longer see what humanity was doing. The cage had lost its watchers. On Earth's moon, Hannah worked in her lab surrounded by screens. Data poured in from every attack. So far, everything was going according to plan. Station 7 is down, an officer reported. Station 12 confirmed destroyed, all targets eliminated. Hannah allowed herself a small smile. Phase 1 was complete. Now came the hard part. Launch Project Dawn, she ordered. Deep in space. Cargo ships opened their doors and released thousands of small devices. They looked like metal balls, harmless and simple. But inside each one was technology that had taken Hannah 15 years to develop. The devices spread out and moved toward the largest Accord fleet in the sector. 3,000 alien warships gathered to intimidate a human colony. They had no idea what was coming. The first device reached the flagship and attached to its hull. Then it activated. A wave of energy burst outward. Every system on the ship went dark. Engines stopped. Weapons powered down. Lights flickered and died. The ship was not destroyed. It was simply turned off. One by one, the entire fleet went silent. 3,000 ships, the pride of the Galactic Accord, floating dead in space. No casualties, Hannah confirmed. All crews alive. This was important. Humanity could have built weapons that killed. They chose not to. The aliens expected savages. Monsters who would burn everything. Instead, humanity struck with precision. They wanted to win, not to murder. The message was clear. We could have killed you. We chose mercy. Remember that, but not everyone received the message well. Warlord Drak of the Keth Empire did not believe in mercy. His species were warriors. They respected only strength. When he heard that human ships had crippled an Accord fleet, he laughed. Finally, he said, "A real fight." He gathered his personal fleet, 50 of the most powerful warships in the Keth Empire, and raced toward human space. He wanted blood. He wanted to crush these insects who dared to challenge their masters. He found Captain Wu waiting for him. The two fleets met in empty space, far from any planet. Drak studied the human ships on his screen. They were smaller than his, less armored. By every measure, he should win easily. "Attack," he ordered. His ships charged forward, weapons firing. But the human ships moved in ways he had never seen. They spun and dodged with impossible speed. His shots hit nothing but empty space. Then the humans fired back. Beams of light cut through his fleet. One ship after another lost power and went dark. The same technology that had killed the Accord fleet was now killing his. Drak watched in disbelief as his mighty warships became floating coffins. Within minutes, only his flagship remained. "Impossible," he whispered. The Defiance approached his ship. Wu's face appeared on his screen, Warlord Drak Wu said. "Your fleet is disabled. Your weapons are dead. You have two choices. Surrender and live, or fight and join your ships." Drak had never surrendered in his life. His hand moved toward the self-destruct button. A warrior's death was better than shame. But then he stopped. He asked, "Why did you not kill my crews?" "You had the power. We would have killed yours." Wu was quiet for a moment. "Because we are not what you are told we are. We are not animals. We are not monsters. We fight to survive, not to destroy." Drak stared at the human captain. In his entire life, no enemy had ever shown him mercy. It confused him. It angered him. And somewhere deep inside, it made him curious. "I surrender," Drak said. The words tasted like poison, but he said them. Hours later, Drak stood on the bridge of the Defiance as a prisoner. He watched human officers work together, calm and professional. No screaming, no cruelty, just quiet determination. "You planned this for a long time," Drak said. 30 years, Wu admitted. "The Accord called you primitive, weak, stupid." Drak shook his head. "They were fools." "Yes," Wu agreed. "They were." Far away, on the Accord capital world, High Chancellor Vorn received reports of the disaster. His gray face turned pale. His four hands trembled with rage. "How?" He screamed at his advisors. "How did they hide this from us?" No one had answers. Vorn activated the emergency broadcast system. His face appeared on screens across the galaxy. "The humans have broken every treaty," he announced. "They have attacked peaceful stations. They have disabled innocent ships. They are terrorists. Animals. They must be destroyed." But even as he spoke, doubt spread through the Accord. Ambassador Tella, from a neutral species, watched Vorn's broadcast with narrow eyes. She had always wondered about the human treaties. They seemed too harsh, too specific. Too much like a cage. That night, she received an anonymous message. It contained documents. Old documents. Documents that showed exactly why those treaties were written. Tella read them 3 times. Then she began making calls. The galaxy was about to learn the truth, and Vorn's lies were about to crumble. On the Defiance, Wu looked at the stars through the window. Beside him, Drak stood in silence. "What happens now?" the warlord asked. "Now," Wu said, "we show the galaxy who we really are, and you are going to help us." Drak raised one eyebrow. "Why would I help you?" Wu smiled. Because you want to know if mercy is weakness or strength. And the only way to find out is to watch what we do next. Drax said nothing. But he did not look away. The night of broken chains was over. The real battle was just beginning. 3 weeks had passed since humanity broke free. The galaxy was on fire with rumors, accusations, and fear. Species that had trusted the Accord for centuries now whispered in dark corners. What else had they been lied to about? On the neutral world of Kairos, Ambassador Tella stood before representatives of 40 species. She was small, with blue skin and large dark eyes. Her people had always stayed out of galactic politics, but not today. I have evidence, she announced. Evidence that the Galactic Accord built its power on lies. The room exploded with angry voices. Some demanded she be silent. Others demanded she speak. Tella waited until they quieted. 300 years ago, the Accord voted to contain humanity. Not because humans had done anything wrong, because they might become dangerous someday. She showed them the documents Hannah had stolen. Every treaty humanity signed was designed to keep them weak. The Accord feared what humans could become, so they built a cage and called it peace. Half the representatives stormed out in anger. The other half stayed and read the documents. By morning, 5 species had withdrawn from the Accord. The cracks were spreading, but Vorn was not finished. He had ruled the Accord for 60 years. He had crushed rebellions before. He would crush this one too. Attack Sierra 3, he ordered his generals. Burn it to the ground. Show the galaxy what happens to those who defy us. Sierra 3 was humanity's smallest colony. Only 2 million people lived there. Farmers, teachers, families, easy targets. Admiral Tane knew they were coming. Nari's spy network had warned him days ago. He gathered every ship he could spare and raced to defend the colony. The Accord fleet arrived first. 1,000 warships surrounded the small planet. Their commander broadcast a message to the surface. Surrender the colony, he said. Abandon your homes and leave, or we will kill everyone. The people of Sierra 3 looked up at the sky filled with enemy ships. They were afraid. Some cried. Some prayed, but no one ran. We are human, the colony governor replied. We do not abandon our home. The Accord commander smiled. He had hoped they would refuse. He wanted to make an example. Begin the attack, he ordered. Weapons charged across 1,000 ships. In seconds, Sierra 3 would burn. Then Tay arrived. The human fleet burst out of faster than light, traveled directly behind the Accord forces. 200 ships against 1,000. Terrible odds. Impossible odds. Tay attacked anyway. The battle was chaos. Human ships darted between larger Accord vessels, too fast to hit, too small to catch. They targeted engines and weapons, disabling ships one by one. The Accord commander was confused. His ships were bigger. His weapons were stronger. But the humans moved like ghosts. They struck and vanished. Struck and vanished. How are they doing this? He screamed. No one knew. Human ships should not be this fast. Human weapons should not be this precise. Everything the Accord believed about humanity was wrong. On the bridge of his flagship, Tay gave orders with calm precision. His crew trusted him completely. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. Target their flagship, Tay commanded. Disable it. The Defiance, with Captain Wu at the helm, led the charge. They dodged enemy fire with impossible grace. They reached the Accord flagship and fired Hannah's special weapon. The massive ship went dark. Dead in space, without their commander, the Accord fleet panicked. Some ships retreated, others crashed into each other. Within hours, the attack was over. For the first time in galactic history, an Accord offensive had failed completely. On Sierra 3, people came out of their shelters and looked up at the sky. The enemy ships were gone. Human ships circled above like protective birds. They had survived. Across the colony, people began to cheer. Some fell to their knees and wept with relief. Children who had been hiding underground ran to their parents. One old woman looked up at the sky and whispered, "Thank you," far away on Earth's moon. Hannah watched the battle recordings with tears in her eyes. They had won. Against impossible odds, they had won. But she knew this was only the beginning. "We need to tell everyone," she said. "Not just our allies. Everyone in the galaxy." She worked for 3 days without sleep. She prepared a broadcast that would reach every corner of known space. And she included all the evidence. Every document. Every secret. Every lie. Then she hijacked the Accord's own communication network. Vorn was giving a speech about human aggression when every screen in the galaxy suddenly changed. Hannah's face appeared, calm and determined. "My name is Dr. Hannah Verth," she said. "I am going to show you the truth." For 1 hour, she broadcast everything. The containment vote, the treaty designs, the sterilization plans. She showed communications where Accord leaders laughed about keeping humanity in chains. She showed evidence of similar plans against other species. Billions of beings watched across thousands of worlds. Many had always wondered why humans were treated so badly. Now they knew. The reaction was immediate. 6 more species withdrew from the Accord. Protests erupted on dozens of worlds. Citizens demanded answers from their leaders. How many others had been caged? How many lies had they believed? Vorn watched his empire crumble in real time. Everything he had built was falling apart. "Find her," he ordered. "Kill her. Kill all of them." But his orders meant nothing now. Half his officers had stopped obeying. Many secretly agreed with the humans. Others were simply afraid. On Cairo's ambassador, Tella made a historic announcement. Her species would formally ally with humanity. She invited others to join them. "The old order was built on fear," she said. "It is time to build something better." Within days, 12 species had joined the alliance. More were considering it. The galaxy was no longer unified against humanity. It was divided, arguing, questioning everything it had once believed. Elder Sung watched these developments from Earth. He was too old to fight, but he could still think. He could still plan. "We need to put them on trial," he said during a strategy meeting. "Not with weapons, with words. We need to show the galaxy that we are not just strong, we are right." Tay nodded slowly. "A trial. In front of everyone, the neutral assembly," Sung confirmed. "Where no species has advantage, where the truth can be heard by all." Captain Wu frowned. "What if they refuse to come?" Sung smiled. It was a tired smile, but there was steel behind it. "Because if they do not, they admit guilt. Vorn is too proud to hide. He will come to defend himself." The old man stood with difficulty. "And when he does, we will show the galaxy exactly what the Accord really is." The invitation was sent that night. A formal request for debate at the neutral assembly. Not as criminals begging for mercy, as prosecutors demanding justice, Vorn received the invitation and laughed. "They want a trial? Fine, I will give them a trial. And when it is over, the galaxy will see humans for the animals they truly are." He did not understand. He could not understand. The trial would not be about what humanity had done. It would be about what the Accord had done to humanity. And the galaxy was finally ready to listen. The neutral assembly hall was the largest structure ever built. It floated in space around the moon of Kairos, a place where no weapons were allowed and all species met as equals. For thousands of years, disputes had been settled here. Treaties had been signed. History had been made. Today, history would be made again. Elder Sung walked slowly to the speaker's platform. He was the oldest person in the room, his white hair thin, his body frail. But his voice was strong. Around him sat representatives from over 800 species. Some supported humanity. Some supported the Accord. Most were undecided, waiting to hear both sides. Vorn sat in the Accord section with his remaining allies. His gray face showed no emotion, but his forehands were clenched tight. He had come to defend his legacy. He was confident he would win. Sung reached the platform and looked out at the assembly. Cameras broadcast his image to every corner of the galaxy. Trillions of beings watched and waited. "I am not here to talk about war," Sung began. "I am not here to talk about weapons or treaties or politics," he paused. "I am here to talk about children." The room was silent. On Earth, we have a tradition. When a child is born, we celebrate. We dream about what they might become. A scientist, an artist, a leader. Every child is a universe of possibility. Sung's voice grew heavy. For 50 years, human children grew up believing they were lesser. They were told that treaties were for their own good. They were told they were too dangerous, too violent, too primitive to be trusted. He shook his head slowly. They believed these lies. They felt shame for being born human. He looked directly at Vorn. What crime did those children commit? What did they do except exist? Vorn said nothing. His face remained stone. The Accord did not cage humanity because we were dangerous, Sung continued. They caged us because we might become dangerous. They punished us for crimes we had not committed. They imprisoned our children for sins they had not done. Stepped forward. That is not justice. That is fear. And fear makes tyrants of us all, the assembly murmured. Sung had touched something deep. Many species knew what it felt like to be judged unfairly, to be feared for what they might do. Now came the witnesses, one by one. Representatives from species once allied with the Accord stepped forward. They told stories that had been hidden for centuries. A small creature with green fur spoke first. His species had signed treaties with the Accord 200 years ago. They told us we were partners, he said. But the treaties gave them control of our trade, our travel, our technology. When we tried to change the terms, they threatened to destroy us. His voice broke. We were not partners. We were prisoners with pretty chains. Another witness came forward. Her species had fought a war against the Accord long ago. We lost, she admitted. They did not kill us. They did something worse. They took our history. They erased our culture. They taught our children that we had always been weak, always been lesser. Tears ran down her face. My grandchildren do not know who they once were.
Oh.
More witnesses followed. Each story was different, but the pattern was the same. The Accord spoke of peace and partnership. But beneath the words was always control, always fear, always the threat of destruction. Finally, it was Vorn's turn to speak. He rose to his full height, towering over the platform. His presence was impressive. His voice was commanding. Humanity's dangerous, he declared. This is not opinion. This is fact. Look at their history. War after war. Weapon after weapon. They split the atom before they could feed their hungry. They reached for the stars while their world burned. He pointed at Sung. We did not cage them out of hate. We caged them out of wisdom. If a wild animal wanders into your home, do you give it freedom? No. You contain it before it bites your children. Several species nodded. Vorn was persuasive. His words had power, as we planned for the future. Yes, we prepared for the possibility that humanity might threaten us. This was not cruelty. It was survival. Any species would do the same. He spread his forearms wide. I am not ashamed. I protected the galaxy from a plague, and I would do it again. The room was divided. Some agreed with Vorn. Others looked troubled. The trial hung in balance. Then Nari stepped forward. She had been silent until now, standing in the shadows. But she had one more piece of evidence. The most important piece. High Chancellor Vorn speaks of wisdom and survival, she said quietly. But I have something to show you. She activated a recording. Vorn's voice filled the hall. The sterilization program must begin immediately. Target the youngest populations first. Within 3 generations, the human population will fall to manageable levels. They will be too few to threaten us, too weak to resist. The recording continued. Vorn discussed details of the plan. Which chemicals to use, how to hide them in medicine, how to make humanity die slowly without ever knowing why. The room erupted in horror. This was not containment. This was not protection. This was planned extinction. Slow genocide dressed in kind words. 3 more species withdrew from the accord immediately. Others shouted accusations at Vorn. The High Chancellor stood frozen, unable to deny his own voice. "You would have killed them," Ambassador Tella said, her voice trembling with anger. "Not in battle. Not in war. You would have murdered their future while pretending to be their friend." Vorn tried to speak, but no one would listen anymore. His allies abandoned him. His supporters looked away in shame. Sung walked back to the platform one final time. "The Neutral Assembly cannot enforce law," he said. "We all know this. You cannot arrest the Accord. You cannot punish them with your vote." He looked at the representatives. "But you can judge them. You can tell the galaxy what you believe is right and wrong." He straightened his old back. "We ask only one thing. A simple vote. Was the Accord's treatment of humanity just or unjust? Were they protecting the galaxy, or were they committing the greatest crime in history?" The vote took 2 hours. Every species that had come to Kairos cast their decision. When the results were announced, Sung closed his eyes. 847 voted to condemn the Accord. 12 voted to support them. It was not a legal victory, but it was something more important. It was moral victory. The galaxy had looked at the truth and chosen to see it. Vorn left the assembly in silence. His empire had crumbled. His legacy was ash. He had ruled for 60 years, and now he was nothing. Outside the hall, Tay was waiting for Sung. "Did we win?" the Admiral asked. Sung shook his head slowly. "We proved we deserved to fight. We proved the cage was wrong." He looked at the stars. "But now comes the harder part. Now we have to prove we deserve to lead." Tay understood. Winning the war meant nothing without winning the peace. Breaking chains was easy compared to building something better. "What do we do now?" Wu asked. He had watched the trial from the back of the room. Sung put a frail hand on the young captain's shoulder. "We show them who we can become. Not with weapons. Not with revenge," he smiled. "With hope." The trial was over, but humanity's true test was just beginning. 1 year had passed since the trial. The Galactic Accord was gone, dissolved like morning mist under the harsh light of truth. Where there had once been order, there was now chaos. Where there had once been fear, there was now hope, and humanity had a choice to make. Captain Wu stood on the bridge of the Defiance. But today, he was not going to battle. His ship carried food, medicine, and engineers. His destination was a planet that had been devastated in the conflict. A planet that belonged to former enemies. "Sir," his officer said nervously, "they tried to destroy Saruthri. They would have killed everyone. Why are we helping them?" Wu looked out at the wounded world growing larger on his screen. Cities burned. Hospitals overflowed. Children starved, because we are not what they said we were, Wu replied. "And the best way to prove that is to help the people who believed the lies, eh?" The Defiance landed near the largest refugee camp. Thousands of aliens watched the human ship with fear in their eyes. They had been told their whole lives that humans were monsters. Now monsters were walking toward them with food in their hands. An old alien female approached. "Woo!" She was trembling. "Why?" she asked. "We were your enemies. Why would you help us?" Wu knelt so he could look into her eyes. "Because you were never our enemies," he said gently. "You were lied to. Just like we were. The real enemies are gone now." He stood and gestured to his crew unloading supplies. "And because this is who we choose to be." The old female watched humans distribute food to her people. Children who had been crying began to smile. Parents wept with relief. That night, for the first time in her life, she thought maybe humans were not monsters after all. Across the galaxy, similar scenes repeated. Human ships appeared at damaged worlds, not to conquer, but to rebuild. They asked for nothing in return. They simply helped. The galaxy watched in confusion. Conquerors did not behave this way. Winners did not feed losers. What were the humans doing? Dr. Hannah knew exactly what they were doing. She had established something called the Open Science Coalition. Any species could join. Any scientist could participate. Human technology, the technology that had won the war, was shared freely with anyone willing to cooperate. Within months, dozens of civilizations were working together on projects that helped everyone. New medicine that cured diseases across species, new engines that made travel faster and safer, new farming techniques that fed hungry worlds. "You are giving away your advantage, Ambassador," Tella said during one meeting. "Your technology won the war. Why share it?" Hannah smiled. "Because advantage means nothing if we are alone. We were caged for 50 years. We know what isolation feels like. We will not do that to others." Tella was quiet for a long time. Then she nodded slowly. "You are not what we expected," she admitted. "No," Hannah agreed. "We are what we choose to be." Not everyone welcomed the new order. Vorn had fled to the outer rim of the galaxy, gathering the last loyalists of the Accord. He dreamed of revenge. He plotted a final strike that would destroy Earth and restore his power. Admiral Tay tracked him for months, not to destroy him, to end the threat without more death. When Tay finally found Vorn's hidden base, he did not attack immediately. Instead, he broadcast a message. "Hi, Chancellor. It is over. Your allies have abandoned you. Your fleet is broken. Your empire is gone." Tay's voice was calm. "But you can still choose how this ends. Surrender now, and you will live. You will be exiled, but you will be free." Vorn's response was immediate. His remaining ships attacked. The battle was short. Human technology was too advanced. Within an hour, every Accord ship was disabled. Only Vorn's flagship remained, damaged and drifting. Tay boarded the ship personally. He found Vorn on the bridge, standing among dead consoles and flickering lights. "Kill me," Vorn said. "Finish it." Tay studied the creature who had tried to exterminate his species. He felt anger, yes. Hatred even. But he also felt something unexpected. Pity. Tay said, "I will not kill you. I will not make you a symbol. I will not give you the death you want." He stepped closer. "You will live, Vorn. You will be alone. You will watch as the galaxy moves on without you. You will see species working together, thriving together, building things you never imagined." Tay's voice hardened. "And you will know that everything you believed was wrong?" Vorn stared at him with pure hatred. But he had no weapons, no fleet. No power. Tay left him there, alone on a dead ship, drifting at the edge of nowhere. Some fates were worse than death. 6 months later, representatives from 200 species gathered on Kairos. They came to sign something new, something that had never existed before, the Kairos Compact. Unlike the old treaties, this one was not designed to contain anyone. It was designed to ensure that no species would ever be caged again. Every species had equal voice. Every species had equal rights. No one was above the law. No one was below it. Elder Sung, frail but proud, watched the signing ceremony. He had not expected to live this long. He had not expected to see this day. Admiral Tay stood beside him. Captain Wu was there too, along with Hannah and Nari. The 5 of them had started this journey in a dark room underground. Now they stood in the brightest hall in the galaxy. "We did it," Wu said quietly. "We actually did it." Sung shook his head. "We started it. The work is not finished. It will never be finished." He smiled. "But that is not a bad thing. Building something good takes forever. Destroying something bad takes only a moment." The signing was completed. Species that had been enemies for centuries shook hands and promised to try something different, something better. That night, humanity threw a celebration on Earth. People danced in the streets. Children played without fear. Old people who remembered the days of shame finally felt proud, but 5 people did not celebrate. They stood together on a hill outside the city, looking up at the stars. Nari spoke first. "Do you think they will ever trust us completely?" Tay considered the question. Across the galaxy, species were watching humanity, some with hope, some with doubt, some still with fear. "They do not need to trust us," he said finally. They just need to see who we choose to be. Hannah smiled. And who is that? Wu laughed. The people who built secret ships and asteroids for 30 years. The people who broke every treaty in one night. The people who won a war without killing? Sung chuckled. We are complicated, but Tay had a different answer. We are the ones who break chains, he said, including our own. They stood together in silence, watching the stars. Out there somewhere, the first joint human-alien fleet was launching toward unexplored space. New worlds waited. New mysteries called. New friends would be made. The galaxy had feared humanity for 300 years. They had built cages and written treaties and planned extermination. They had done everything possible to prevent humanity from becoming what they might become. They failed, but not in the way they expected. Humanity did not become conquerors. They did not become tyrants. They did not become the monsters the Accord had feared. They became something else entirely. They became the ones who lifted others up, who shared instead of hoarded, who forgave instead of destroyed, who proved that strength and kindness were not opposites. The old galaxy was gone. A new one was being born, and this time, humanity would help build it right. Tay looked at his friends, his family, his fellow humans, who had changed the course of history. Ready for whatever comes next? He asked. Hannah took his hand. Nari nodded. Wu grinned. Sung closed his eyes and smiled. Always, they said together, the stars waited, and humanity was finally free to reach them.